Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome dear students in this class of BS English. Your course title is Semantics. Course code is ENGL4140 and I'm your course instructor Tayyiba. Okay, let's start today's session. Students, today's session, it is your reinforcement session because you people know that continuously you people are moving towards the end of your semester. So in this session we would revise the concepts that you people have already read, and in today's session we will discuss certain important concepts that are imperative to the study of meaning. Students, anything meaningful in language is a linguistic expression. And you know that linguistic expressions, they may be of various length. We can recognize different units of meaning. Units, they may be morphemes, they may be lexemes, or words, idioms, and they might be complete sentences. And you know about a lexeme, that a lexeme may consist of one or more meanings or more meaningful units that are called morphemes. And every lexeme, it is a combination of form and meaning. And generally we can recognize three aspects of meaning in lexeme. That is the relation to phenomena outside language, then the relation to people's attitude and feelings, and the third one is the relation to other lexemes. And you know that two lexemes that have the same form or they are having the same pronunciation or spellings are called homonyms. Then there are so many other names for single lexemes with a wide range of meanings that you people have already read in your session of sense relations. So in today's session we will reinforce or revise all these concepts. That will be reference and denotation, sense. Then we will talk about sense relations and connotations. Okay, now we are starting our session. In everyday language, there are words. For example, we can say tree, run, red, which seem to have an obvious relation with the objects and events. And we can say with the description of things in the world around us or in the world we live. And students, children learning their language, they first learn the words in association with observable items and situations and events. This simple fact, it can give rise to an overly simple idea about what meaning is. And sometimes we think that a language consists of a large number of words. And students, each of these words have direct correlation with something that is not in the language, but that is outside of language, which is its meaning. Since we communicate with one another by using language, it must be that we all have the same idea or same concept that is associated with each word. Maybe you people do remember, as you people have listened in your previous lectures, about the point of view that was presented by Ogden and Richard. Ogden and Richard, who developed a mentalistic theory about the meaning. And they tried to explain the meaning in terms of what is in people's mind. I think you may remember the triangle that was in your previous sessions. And their explanation, it revolves around three concepts. That was concept, word, and object. And Ogden and Richards called the bond between word and concept an association. The bond between concept and object reference, and the bond between object and word is meaning. Students, when we hear or read a word, we often form a mental picture of what the word or what that particular word represents. So we can say we are apt to equate concept with a mental picture. And to be sure, it's easier to form a mental picture for some words. For example, we can say about dog or about door. But here is one question, that what type of mental image do you form for a door? For example, can you form or an image of a revolving door, or you're forming an image of folding door, or it's a sliding door, or we can say this door is moving horizontally, or it's an overhead door which moves vertically, a turning door. Is it in a wall or cabinet, or it's a part of a car? So we can say clearly the meaning of a door. It is more than what is included in a single image. And your knowledge of these words is much more than the ability to relate them to single objects. So we have the ability, we possess the ability to relate it with so many or multiple objects. We can use all these words successfully in a large number of situations. We can use these words in a large number of occasions. What's the reason behind this? Because we have the knowledge that makes this possible. Students, as far as reference is concerned, reference is the relation between a language expression, such as we have talked about this door, or both doors, or their dog, another dog, and whatever the expression pertains to in you can say in a particular situation of language use. Or we can say whatever speaker may imagine, or whatever speaker is imagining. Now I would like also to introduce another concept, that is denotation. Denotation is the potential of a word, like door or dog, to enter into such language expressions. On one hand, we can say that reference is the way the speakers and the hearers use an expression successfully, whereas denotation is the knowledge they have that makes their use successful. But students, here is a trouble with the mentalistic theory of meaning. The first one, that not all words can be associated with mental images, and some words have a range of meaning greater than any single association. And a bigger problem with this theory is that we have no access to other people's minds. So how can we ever know that we all have the same mental image? Okay, if we say that semantics, it is a science. It cannot operate scientifically by starting with things that are not observable and that are not comparable. So words, they are also not only the semantic units. Meaning can be expressed by units that may be smaller than words. We can quote the example of morphemes. And meanings, they can also be expressed in units, like we can talk about sentences that are larger than words. This sentence, the dog bit a man and the man bit a dog. You can say it's just like an example that contains the same words, but they do not express the same meaning. So we can say there are so many other aspects of meaning, and reference and sense are also important features or aspects of meaning. Now we will explore all these concepts in detail. I would like to define the term reference. By means of reference, a speaker indicates which things in the world, including persons, are being talked about. Now look at this example in the slide. My son is in the beech tree. As far as my son is concerned, it means a person is identified here. And in the second one, the beech tree, a thing is identified. Okay, if we take an example, I'm saying this page, a word, this page, or a phrase, this page. Now students, this phrase, this page, it is a part of the, you can say, English language. It is a phrase. If I'm using this one in my talk or in my slide, you can say that it was used in my slide or in the first paragraph of my slide. However, it can be actually identified as a particular sheet of paper, this page, and something that you people could take between your hands, between your fingers, and between your thumb. A little part of the world. So the actual page is the sheet of paper, is not a part of English language. It is actual page. It's not, you can say, or all these are not words. This is the actual paper that is in your hands. So we can say it's not a part of English language. Because languages, they are not made of piece of papers. So we have talked about two things. Number one, English expression, this page. Students, English expression, this page, it is a part of language. And the other thing that we can hold in our hands, we can touch with our fingers and thumb, that is the part of world. That is the actual or genuine piece of paper. So we call the relationship between them reference. And this page refers to the physical sheet of paper. Now there is a little practice for you people. And before answering these questions, you should carry out the following instructions you have to follow. Touch your left ear. Question number 1. Write down the last 3 words in the above instruction that you people heard. Question number 2. Is the thing you touched a part of the world or a part of language? Number 3. Is your answer to question number 1 a part of the language? Number 4. If you say to your mother, there is a wasp on your left ear, does your left ear here refers to the thing you touched in response to a previous question? Students, as far as the first one is concerned, write down the last 3 words in the above instruction. Obviously, you people have heard touch your left ear. So you people will write down the last 3 words, your left ear. Number 2, is the thing you touched a part of the world or a part of the language? It is a part of world because language do not have ears. Number 3, is your answer to your question number 1 a part of language? Yes. Then number 4, if you say to your mother, there is a wasp on your left ear, does your left ear here refers to the thing you touched in response to the previous question? Students, the answer will be no, because it refers to your mother's left ear. So we can say in the present circumstances, your left ear, it refers to the thing you touched in the response number 1. And we say that your left ear, it is the referent of the phrase your left ear. So we can say reference, it is a relationship between parts of language and things outside the language, are the things that in the world. And the same expression, it can in some cases be used to refer to different things as well. There are as many potential referents for the phrases as we have talked about your left ear, as there are so many people in the world with left ears. Likewise, there are also as many potential referents for the phrases like we have already talked about this page, because there are so many pages in the world. Thus, some or in fact very many expressions in the language can have variable reference because reference can change. Students, one thing more about the reference. We can say a reference is under the speaker's control. It's not words which refer, but speakers, they refer. And according to Searle 1969, he has presented two necessary conditions for a successful act of reference. Number one is there must exist one and only one object to which the speaker's utterance of the expression applies. So there must be one and only one object for reference. Number two, the hearer must be given sufficient means to identify the object from the speaker's utterance of the expression. So clearly the hearer can be given any number of means to identify the intended object. The reference of a term in a particular context, it depends on the speaker, and we can say also, of course, if it is successful, on the hearer, not on the term itself. We have already talked about the variability of reference in our previous slides. Students, the variability of reference is it's very, you can say, deep-seated in language. And if we reflect a real discourse, which along with literal usage of language, it also contains metaphor, it also contains ironical statements, exaggerations, and many other types of non-standard reference. So, to say nothing of simple mistakes, then it will soon become obvious that the referential scope of words is it's very large. And this scope poses a considerable challenge for the theory of sense. If a word's reference is determined by its sense, then the range of reference that only word may have is extremely wide. In our next slides, we'll talk about sense. Now we will talk about the sense of an expression. What is the sense of an expression? Students, we can say that sense of an expression is its place in a system of semantic relationships. So, a system of semantic relationships with other expressions in the language. So, the first of these semantic relationships, you people can say it is the sameness of the meaning. We can say the first thing is the similar meaning. So, an intuitive concept we will discuss with the help of one example that is given in this slide. So first of all, we will deal first with the senses of words in context. Now look at this example and say whether the pairs of words in the curly brackets in these sentences below, they have approximately the same meaning or they have a different meaning. Look at the first one. I almost fell over. I nearly fell over. In the number two, it is likely that Raymond will be here tomorrow, or it's probable that Raymond will be here tomorrow. Number three, your gatepost does not seem to be quite vertical, or your gatepost does not seem to be quite upright. The fourth one, he painted the fireplace aquamarine, or he painted the fireplace vermilion. Number five, I will see you on Wednesday, or I will see you on Thursday. Students, as far as the first example is concerned, we can say I almost fell over or I nearly fell over. We can say that it may have approximately the same meaning. And in the second one, it is likely that Raymond will be here tomorrow, or it's probable. So it's also having the similar or same meaning. In the third one, the meaning is also same. But if we talk about the fourth example and the fifth example, then we will say that aquamarine and vermilion both are different. So same is the case in the example 5, Wednesday and Thursday. It's not the same day. So we can talk about sense not only of words, but we can talk about the sense in longer expressions. We can talk about the sense of phrases. We can talk about the sense of sentences as well. Students, meaning is more than denotation and connotations. What a word means depends in part of its association with other words that are linked with that one. So we can say the relational aspect is here. Lexemes do not merely have meanings, they contribute meanings to the utterance in which they occur. And what meanings they contribute, it depends on what other lexemes they are associated with in these utterances. The meaning that a lexeme has because of these relationships is the sense of that lexemes. And part of this relationship, it can be seen in the way words do or do not. You can say go together meaningfully. And it makes sense to say, for example, if I'm saying John walked, and it makes sense to say an hour elapsed. It does not make sense to say that John elapsed or an hour walked. So the part of the meaning elapse is that it goes with hours, seconds, minutes or day, but it does not go with John. And the meaning of the word hour, second and so forth is that these words can co-occur with elapse. Part of the relationship is seen in the way words' meanings vary with context. Okay, a library, it's a collection of books. If I'm saying Professor Ali has a rather large library and is also a building that houses a collection of texts. So we can say that the library is at the corner of Wilson and Adams Street. Now two things are there. A number of English verbs can be used in two different ways or different grammatical associations, and then they have slightly, you can say, a different meaning. Okay, take one example. If I'm saying a window broke, now there is another way just to say this thing. Tom broke a window. So what happened in both these statements or both these sentences? Students, what happened to the window is the same thing. But in the first sentence, broke is equivalent to become broken. And if we talk about the second one, that Tom broke a window, then it is equivalent to cause to be broken. Adjectives too have different senses. If you come across some object which you have never seen before and you wonder about its origin and its purpose, so you people may ask that, or you people may be curious about that. And we may also call that object that it is a curious kind of thing. So the same term is used for our subjective feelings and for the supposedly objective properties of items, such type of items, a curious person or a curious object. So we can say a judge makes decisions if he is guided by personal whim or choice. So the judge is arbitrary, inclined to make decisions based on personal whim. But we can also say that decision is arbitrary. The dictionary definition of this word is based on personal choice rather than reason. Now take the example of lexeme. A lexeme does not merely have meanings. It contributes to the meaning of a larger unit. It contributes to the meaning of a phrase. It contributes to the meaning of a sentence. Okay, take these phrases with the adjective happy. A happy child and a happy family. A happy accident or a happy experience. A happy story or a happy report. Students, when happy combines with the word that has the feature just like human, child or family, so we can say it is roughly equivalent to who enjoys happiness. A happy child is a child who has or who enjoys the happiness. In combination with words that have the feature just like event, that is accident or experience, its contribution is roughly that produces happiness. And then in combination with the words that have the feature of discourse, just we have talked about happy story and happy report, its meaning is roughly containing a happy event or events. Each of these words have a range of meanings. And students, each meaning is determined by its linguistic context. Just as the meaning of a door or any other specific occasion is determined by the physical context in which it occurs. So, meaning is determined by its context. And the meaning of lexeme is in part of its relation to another lexemes of the language. And we can say each lexeme is linked in some way or another to the other lexemes of language. And we may notice that two kinds of linkage especially. We can say firstly there is the relation of lexeme with other lexemes with which it occurs in the same phrases or in the same, you can say, sentence, in the way we have already talked about arbitrary and that co-occur with judge and happy with child or accident. There are so many others. Just sit with chair, read with book or newspaper. Students, all these are syntagmatic relations. So association of two or more words in a sequence, so that the meaning of each is affected by the other or others, and together their meaning contribute to the meaning of larger unit, then it becomes a phrase or a sentence. Another kind of relation is contrastive. As we have earlier talked about that the judge was arbitrary, for instance, we can say that judge was cautious or careless or busy, and so many other numerous possible descriptions or descriptors we can use. Students, this is called a paradigmatic relation. A paradigmatic relation, it is a relation of choice, and we choose from among a number of possible words that can fill the same blank. The words may be similar in meaning or have little in common, but each is different from the others. Okay, you know that all of us, we are used to a writing system that goes from left to right. So we may think of syntagmatic relations as horizontal relations, and as far as paradigmatic relations are concerned, we can say that paradigmatic relations are vertical relations. A compound expression such like as a book or a newspaper or read or write puts two lexemes that are paradigmatically related into a syntagmatic relationship. As a children, we have learnt our vocabulary through specific associations with specific things, with specific actions and characteristics. And as we learn to recognize different instances of the same thing, the same event, and so many others, and we generalize the things. Students, that is denotation. And with the passage of time, we learn from other numbers of our speech community and from our so many personal experiences that what type of associations are favorable and which are not. As you people have heard about connotations. And in this way, we acquire an implicit knowledge. So implicit knowledge regarding what? That how lexemes are associated with other lexemes. And as we have earlier discussed in our previous lectures, that these are the sense relations. So our implicit knowledge of syntagmatic relations, it facilitates our perception as well. Not only our perception, but also our identification of what we hear and read. And it also, you can say, or it enables us to correct ourselves automatically when we hear and see that something is not correct or something needs correction. So this is our implicit knowledge. Now I will discuss another important dimension of meaning, that is connotation. I would like to quote an example. Okay, take example of a word dog. The word dog, it has certain denotation, and the possibility of entering into numerous referring expressions, such as I would like to quote again a few examples. If I say a sentence, my children have just acquired a dog, or several dogs were fighting over a bone. Now students, how do you feel about dogs? Or how does a particular society value dogs? Again, there might be certain answers for this one. If we talk about Eskimos, they take a dog just like an animal that is used for pulling a sled. And if we talk about Parsis, they regard dogs as merely something that is very sacred. And if we talk about Hindus, they consider them as a great pest. And in America or in Western Europe, we can say some members of species still perform the original course of hunting and guarding, while others are merely pets. So this notion is different from society to society. And we can say that the meaning of a dog, it includes the attitudes of a society and individuals. So this is a pragmatic aspect. And it would be wrong to think that a purely biological definition of the lexeme dog is sufficient account of its meaning. Part of its meaning is its connotation. So we can say the effective and emotional associations it elicits, which clearly need to be the same for all people who know and use the word. A denotation identifies the central aspect of word meaning, which everybody generally agrees about. Whereas when we talk about the connotation, students, we can say that the connotation refers to the personal aspect of meaning, the emotional associations that the word arouses. And connotations vary according to the experience of individuals. Because people do have common experiences, and some words have shared connotations. If we talk about the language, language or languages provide means of expressing different attitudes. And the referring expressions, okay, violin or fiddle, they can have the same referent. They can refer to the same object on a particular occasion. But students, they do not have the same meaning because they differ in their connotations. If we talk about violin, violin is the usual term. We can say it is a neutral term. However, fiddle is used for humor or to express affection. We can say sometimes it also shows lack of esteem as well. And somewhat other similar relations are there in when we talk about automobile and car. So there are so many others. So we can say the same denotation but differ in their situations in which they are used. So we can say therefore have differences in degrees of formality and degrees of style or flavor. So all these variations are in the connotation. Now I will present the summary of the whole session. Students, the notion that every word has a single meaning or every meaning is expressed by just one word, this notion is utterly wrong, and it's an obstacle in recognizing the complexities in meaningful expressions and in the meanings expressed. We recognize several kinds of meaning, and some pieces of language they refer to something that is sometime real or sometime it's not real or sometime it's outside of language. And any such linguistic form is a referring expression. And what it refers to, it's referent. And some linguistic forms make comments about these referents. They are predicates. So we have already discussed the notion of sense and reference. In this session, students, sense and reference, they are central, you can say, to the study of meaning. And the idea of reference, we can say it's relatively solid because it's easy to understand. Whereas the idea of sense is concerned, it's more elusive. And it's bit, you can say, like electricity, which we all know how to use in various ways without ever being sure what exactly it is. Even students, semanticists and scholars or linguists, they are not exactly sure about what sense is. But with the passage of time, you will learn it, you will grasp the notion with all your appreciation of the usefulness of the concept. If you people will study more and more this thing. And in the last slide, we discussed the concept of connotation. Connotation refers to the personal aspect of meaning, means something that is emotionally associated. Something that is emotionally associations that are the word arouses. So consequently, connotations they vary. They differ. They are not similar. They vary according to the experience of the individuals. So In this session, we have discussed the concepts of reference, sense, and denotation. Thank you very much, students. Hopefully, you people have enjoyed today's session. Now, I would like to acknowledge the resources. The source material of this presentation has been taken from Semantics, a course book that is written by Herford, Hesley, and Smith. And the next one is Introducing English Semantics, written by Cradler.